Okay, here's the kicker. Get this. Saudi Arabia is having a comedy festival this month. Really? Saudi Arabia. It's gonna be great. If you die on stage, you get 72 virgins. And Chappelle is performing. If you told me years ago that Saudi Arabia would be cool to have Dave Chappelle speak and England might arrest him, I would have said, what are you smoking?
The woke left's war on free speech has hit a boiling point, showing zero signs of slowing down. With trademark razor-sharp sarcasm, he shredded the woke mob's madness with surgical precision, leaving jaws dropped everywhere. This wasn't just commentary, it was a full-on demolition, scorching everything in its path. Get ready, because what you're about to hear isn't smoke, it's pure fire. So buckle up and let's dive in.
That's the great irony. Flag burning is free speech, and free speech is one of the key things that makes America great. So now that I have you on my side on that issue, don't be a hypocrite and defend attacks on speech from the left, because you either get the concept or you don't. And sadly, a lot of people don't anymore.
Bill Maher sharply exposes the irony in the situation. The left champions free speech as a sacred right, but uses outrage as a weapon to silence dissenting voices. For them, free speech only applies within their own ideological bubble. Step outside and you're labeled a bigot or worse. Maher calls out this hypocrisy with cutting clarity, reminding us that free speech isn't a privilege for one side, but a universal right meant for everyone, even those the left dislikes.
Mostly the young who were never taught it by their derelict educational system, but also Lisa Cook. She's the Fed board member Trump is trying to fire for bullshit reasons, and they are bullshit. But when she tried to get another professor fired because he once, according to one student, was less than rapturous about Martin Luther King Day, no, she should know better. She said free speech should have its limits. Yes, it should, and does. And this comes nowhere close to them.
Lisa Cook's case highlights a major issue with activist academics who prioritize pushing ideology over true education. Reports claim she pressured colleagues and students to adopt her views instead of fostering open debate and critical thinking. That's indoctrination, not teaching. I support her firing because professors shouldn't misuse classrooms as platforms for personal agendas. This isn't about silencing free speech. It's about standing against corruption harming education and protecting young minds from one-sided propaganda disguised as scholarship.
It's bad enough that Trump is attacking free speech from the right, throwing the Associated Press out of the press pool, calling reporters enemy of the people, threatening and suing networks simply because he doesn't like the coverage. This country can't become that. But it also can't become what the UK is now, a place where you get arrested for tweets, something that happens 12,000 times a year now in Britain. Last week, the Irish sitcom writer Graham Linehan, who's won an Emmy and 5 BAFTA awards, got off a plane at Heathrow and got arrested by 5 British cops. Not because he was selling drones to the Houthis, just because he's a crank who spends way too much time online ranting about gender ideology.
Now, I don't agree with Maher here. Free speech isn't an unlimited license. It has boundaries, and that's necessary. Take the Associated Press, for example. They were kicked out for stubbornly calling it the Gulf of Mexico instead of the Gulf of the US. That wasn't an innocent mistake. It was a deliberate stance against national interest. Then there's the infamous 60 Minutes lawsuit. Trump rightly pushed back because it was clear the program was biased, trying to boost Kamala Harris. If Trump had given that explosive interview, they would have aired it raw and unedited just to take him down.
Which is an odd obsession for a comedian from across the pond, because if men weren't allowed to dress as women, British comedy wouldn't exist. There'd be absolutely nothing left of Shakespeare but the sonnets, and Monty Python movies would be 20 seconds long. But in the words of that great Brit, Ricky Gervais, if you don't believe in a person's right to say things that you might find grossly offensive, then you don't believe in freedom of speech. You shouldn't have to eat your words at the airport. The chicken Alfredo on the flight was bad enough.
Freedom of speech isn't a privilege reserved for a select few. It's a God-given right belonging to every human being, and the very foundation of liberty. No government or mob has the right to trample on it. Once we let one group decide who can speak and who must be silenced, democracy itself is lost. Disagreeing with someone doesn't grant the right to erase their voice. Instead, debate, challenge, and counter with better arguments, but never cancel into silence. Free societies flourish on diverse opinions, not forced uniformity. Silencing dissent only leads to tyranny, which is why protecting free speech isn't optional. It's absolutely essential.
Linehan may be crude, but there's plenty of non-crazy people, liberal people, who think the left has gone a little mad with trans issues. Some have expressed that opinion with literary sophistication, like J.K. Rowling. Some by getting big laughs, like Dave Chappelle. And some are downright ugly about it, like Linehan. But ugly is the price of a freedom so great as speech.
Many people have paid a heavy price for daring to criticize the trans movement and the broader ideology around gender. Speaking out, even respectfully, has become a risky act in today's climate, where disagreement is seen as heresy. The celebrities Trump mentioned are prime examples. Some were brutally canceled, losing endorsements, roles, or entire careers, while others faced harassment, intimidation, and even arrest simply for voicing opinions that didn't align with the approved narrative. This isn't freedom. It's coercion. When society punishes those who speak uncomfortable truths, it's not progress. It's authoritarianism disguised as tolerance. The silencing of public figures should alarm every freedom-loving citizen.
Tried to disappear someone for writing an anti-Israel op-ed in a student newspaper, which I found offensive, but I still would go to the mat for that person to be able to print it. And we can fight Trump on this because we have a First Amendment. England does not. And the fact that they don't, that's not a feature, that's a bug. And it's a bug that's going around Europe now. In Germany, a guy called a politician a Pimmel, which is the German word for dick, and it triggered a police raid. What a Pimmel move.
This moment is a powerful reminder of just how fortunate we are in the United States, and why we must fiercely protect our right to free speech. Unlike many places around the world, Americans can still challenge authority, question institutions, and express their opinions without immediate fear of imprisonment or worse. But this freedom is fragile, and the greatest threats often come from within. When certain groups try to control speech and dictate which voices are allowed, that's not liberty, it's control. People must be free to share their views openly, even if those views are controversial or unpopular. If someone breaks the law while exercising free speech, they should face consequences, but they should never be silenced just for speaking out. Free speech is the foundation of freedom, and once it's lost, reclaiming it is incredibly difficult.
A guy from North Yorkshire in Britain faced 2 years in prison for wearing a Halloween costume depicting the terrorist who bombed the Ariana Grande concert. Bad taste? Yeah, bad taste is the whole point of Halloween. This Scottish man was found guilty of hate speech for a YouTube video where he taught his pug to salute when he said Sieg Heil.
Sieg Heil. Sieg Heil.
Elon Musk watched it and said, I don't see it.
I remember the uproar over Elon Musk's alleged Nazi salute that set the internet and mainstream media ablaze. Headlines exploded, pundits rushed to condemn, and social media was full of outrage. But amid all the noise, there was a key difference between the US and many other countries. No police showed up at Musk's door, and he wasn't hauled into court or jailed for a gesture many found offensive. Instead, he faced what every public figure should in a free society: criticism, debate, and backlash. That's the essence of free speech. You have the right to express yourself, but others have the right to call you out. It does not mean criminalizing expression. This incident perfectly highlighted why America must protect free speech, even when it's speech we strongly dislike.
Kanye, this fucking dog. They're all wrong, and they all have the right to be wrong. Britain is now considering the so-called pub law. Okay, it's not just about pubs. It's a workplace bill aimed at preventing any kind of harassment in the workplace, including verbal remarks overheard. Okay, problem is, a pub is a workplace, so's a bookstore. Would a major chain like Waterstones risk hosting a book signing by a controversial author like J.K. Rowling? And pubs? People go to pubs for two reasons: to drink and to exercise their inalienable right to talk shit.
I totally get where you're coming from. The creeping censorship and the policing of speech in places like Britain is genuinely worrying. When workplaces turn into surveillance zones and people get punished for simply expressing opinions, that's a huge red flag for democracy. It's scary how pandering to a vocal, often extreme minority can end up eroding freedoms for everyone else. If this trend keeps going unchecked, it's not just free speech at risk. It's the entire foundation of liberty and open debate. Do you think there's a way to push back effectively against this?
Not in the House of Lords. They're in a bar called the Drunken Cock. Any Brit will tell you the food is awful, the weather sucks, but at least you can call each other a cunt. And now that's gone? It's like making a rule at the dog park: no ass sniffing.
Absolutely, Bill hits the nail on the head. Free speech isn't just some optional courtesy. It's the bedrock of all our freedoms. When you start letting one group decide what's acceptable to say and who can say it, you're effectively handing over control to whoever shouts the loudest. History is crystal clear. Once free speech is gone, everything else crumbles: rights, justice, even democracy itself. It's not about just being polite or avoiding offense. It's about preserving the very essence of liberty. Protecting free speech isn't a choice. It's a necessity if we want to keep our society free and alive.
Okay, here's the kicker. Get this. Saudi Arabia is having a comedy festival this month. Really? Saudi Arabia. It's gonna be great. If you die on stage, you get 72 virgins. And Chappelle is performing. If you told me years ago that Saudi Arabia would be cool to have Dave Chappelle speak, and England might arrest him, I would have said, "What are you smoking?"
Even countries that once brutally punished dissent are beginning to recognize the value of free speech, or at least loosening their grip on it. Take Saudi Arabia, for example. Not long ago, speaking out against authority could mean disappearance, imprisonment, or worse. The state tightly controlled public expression. Ensuring fear kept people silent. Yet today, that same nation is opening its doors to some of America's most outspoken comedians. Individuals who thrive on pushing boundaries, mocking power, and challenging norms through humor. It's a striking transformation. While Saudi Arabia still has a long way to go toward true freedom, their willingness to host performers known for free expression highlights the undeniable global influence of this principle. If even former hardline regimes are warming up to free speech, Western democracies have no excuse to regress into censorship. Free speech isn't a privilege for a few. It's the cornerstone of liberty. Once mobs, governments, or elites start deciding who gets to speak, freedom crumbles. As nations once hostile to dissent embrace expression, we must defend it fiercely, or risk losing everything. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more. See you next time.